Unique number of occurrences. So to solve this problem, you need to know two concepts, hash sets and hash maps. So hash sets have no order and they don't repeat. And to illustrate this idea, let's use a list containing 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. If I were to create a set from this list by iterating through it element by element, I would have this set as follows. I consider 1. Well, there's nothing in the set yet, so let's just add 1. The same goes for 2. However, when I consider this 2, a 2 is already within the set, and sets cannot have repeats. Therefore, we ignore it and continue. 3 does not exist, so we put 3, and the same goes for 4. Therefore, a set of this given list is 1, 2, 3, 4. What about hash maps? Well, hash maps, otherwise known as dictionaries, are key value pairs, and you store that within an array. And what this looks like is that a key simply maps to a value, and a key can be anything. An identifier, which can be, for example, number 1. 1 maps to the value high. In this case, the key value pair is 1 and high, and we will use this concept to solve the problem. It's also worth noting that you cannot have repeated keys, so you cannot have, for example, 1 map to high and 1 map to buy at the same time. You can only have one of the two. So let's move on to the logic. So we're given an array, and we want to return true if the number of occurrences of each value in the array is unique. And what I mean by this is let's consider 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, the original array. Well, how many times does 1 occur? It occurs once. What about 2? 2 occurs twice, 3 occurs once, and 4 occurs once. Notice that 1, 3, and 4 all occur the same number of times, which is 1. Therefore, this will return false. So how do we use sets and hash maps to our advantage? Well, we would use a hash map to map the number of occurrences for each number. So in the hash map, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 as the keys, and 1 would map to 1, 2 would map to 2, 3 would map to 1, and 4 would map to 1. This indicates how many times each unique number occurs. And the property that you cannot have repeated keys allows us to have just 1, 2, 3, 4, and no duplicates. We then iterate through the values and see if there are repeated values. So in our case, we have repeated ones. Therefore, it will return false. But if it didn't, it will return true. Let's go program this up. So based on the logic, so we're given the array and we need a dictionary. So let's call the dictionary D. And for each x within the array, we are going to say if x not in D, then we're going to create the key value pair. So D of x would equal 1, and otherwise it would be D of x would get incremented by 1. So what does this mean? So D of x is equal to 1. This just says, okay, create a key that's x and set that equal to 1. And that's because if the key does not yet exist, that means that by default, its original value is 0. So we increment 0 by 1, it's equal to 1, which is reflected right here. And if it already exists, that means that it has to be at least 1, so we just increment it like so, because the key already exists. So now we have to iterate through each value of the dictionary D and see if there's any repeats. We can use the set for this problem, for this part of the problem, because sets do not allow repeats. So if the set already contains an element, then that would indicate that a value cannot be added into it if that value is a repeat. So that's why we're going to use sets. So to do that, for x in array dot values, we're going to say if x not in the set, then we're going to add that into the set. Otherwise, we're going to return false. And if this all passes, we're going to return true. The reason for this is because, again, sets do not allow repeats. So if x is not within it, that means it's not a repeat. So we have to add it. And in the future, if it comes up again, then the set will not allow it to be added. Therefore, we will return false. And if that all passes, we return true. And let's run it to make sure we get it correct. And we have a runtime error. So let's see. So we can't do that, right? It can't be array. It has to be the dictionary. Let's run that again. And we passed it, so let's submit. And there we go. We did very good on memory, but the runtime is not too good. And that's because we did 2 for loops, and there is a more efficient way to do that, to do a hash map within a hash map. But for the sake of this example, this is how you solve it.